Jaguars, fearsome and deadly carnivores, possess the strength and danger akin to lions or tigers, capable of easily overpowering other large animals. So when an unsuspecting dog inadvertently found its way into a jaguar enclosure, concerns mounted that the poor canine might become the predator's next meal. However, what unfolded next was beyond anyone's expectations. Jack, a small and amiable dog, shared his life with Simon, his owner, on an African wildlife reserve. Jack relished his daily walks, games, and basking in the warm sun, surrounded by the embrace of nature. The reserve was usually peaceful, with a vast open space around the house for Jack to frolic freely. It was a rarity for any wild animals to venture near the house, so Simon was content to let Jack roam without constraint. There was one memorable incident when Jack encountered an elephant. This colossal creature emerged from the trees, startling Jack, who yelped in surprise and bolted back to the safety of Simon and the house. Once Jack realized the elephant posed no threat, he was eager to return and play with his newfound friend. However, Simon was more cautious about allowing Jack to socialize with such a massive creature, fearing a disastrous accident if the elephant accidentally stepped on the tiny dog. Nevertheless, this incident showcased Jack's sociable and fearless nature. Jack adored meeting other animals, engaging in play, and forming new friendships. Simon sometimes felt remorseful that there were few other dogs for Jack to run and play with in the wildlife reserve. He made every effort to keep his dog entertained and content. Occasionally, though, a pang of guilt and sadness washed over him as he recognized that Jack lacked proper canine companions. One day, Simon received calls from fellow rangers at the wildlife reserve, warning him to be vigilant as a jaguar had been spotted nearby. Simon had never been fearful of animals near his property, given his ranger background. However, the presence of a vicious and highly dangerous carnivorous predator lurking in the nearby trees sent shivers down his spine. While no one had been killed or injured by jaguars on the wildlife reserve yet, it was not unheard of for these creatures to attack pets or even humans who ventured too close. With caution in mind, Simon kept Jack within his sight for several days. This frustrated the little dog, who longed to roam freely in the open air. Still, Simon did not want to tempt fate by inviting the jaguar any closer. Jack was only allowed outside when Simon was present, and even then, he remained on a short leash. One ordinary morning, Simon awoke at his customary hour, rising from bed with a yawn. As he rubbed the sleep from his eyes and prepared to make coffee and breakfast, he sensed that something was amiss. It took him a moment to identify the absence of Jack. Usually, the dog remained in his bed while Simon prepared breakfast, but today there was no sign of him. Simon reached down to touch the bed, discovering that it had grown cold. Jack had not occupied his usual spot in some time. Simon called out for Jack, expecting the usual scampering entrance, but there was no response, no sight or sound of the beloved dog. Concern mounted, and Simon rushed through each room, frantically searching for Jack, but the little dog remained elusive. What Simon did find, however, were telltale signs. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, as was the window. There was ample room for Jack to slip outside. Simon's eyes widened in realization, and he sprinted to the front room to peer out the window. What he witnessed there caused his heart to race and his blood to run cold. Jack lay on the floor, and a colossal jaguar leaped around him, appearing to tease the small pet. The dog yelped in distress, his tiny legs flailing as the jaguar pounced, then bounded a short distance away, only to return and repeat the process. It was a behavior Simon had heard about, a sadistic playfulness exhibited by jaguars as they toyed with their prey before ultimately ending their lives. It was nature's way, but Simon couldn't bear to witness his beloved pet meet such a fate. The jaguar's razor-sharp claws and menacing teeth posed a grave threat to Jack. Reacting swiftly, Simon reached for his gun, prepared to intervene and stop the attack. However, something unexpected made him pause. Jack's tail wagged vigorously, and remarkably, the little dog appeared unharmed and almost as if he was thoroughly enjoying himself. In fact, he seemed to be having the time of his life. Simon slowly lowered his gun and continued to watch through the window, intrigued by the peculiar spectacle unfolding before him. The jaguar's actions were not aggressive. There were no menacing claws or bared teeth. It was merely tapping at Jack before playfully retreating. Suddenly, Jack sprang up and charged at the Jaguar, which flopped onto its back and playfully rolled around as the dog gamely tussled with it. They were engaged in a game, an astonishing and unexpected display of playfulness. Simon was so astounded that he couldn't help but chuckle. The sight of a small dog like Jack playfully wrestling with a massive Jaguar was nothing short of astounding. After an hour of play, the Jaguar, seeming a bit weary, began to retreat into the trees. Simon cautiously opened the door, calling Jack back to safety. The dog trotted toward the house, entering through the door. Simon checked Jack all over but found not a single scratch or injury. Jack had played with a predator for over an hour without sustaining any harm. Later that day, Jack once again requested to go outside, peering expectantly from the door. Simon noticed the Jaguar lounging casually at the garden's edge, seemingly eager for another playdate with the dog. Jack slipped through the door, and the two animals frolicked, rolled around, and had a delightful time together. It was an improbable friendship, yet a beautiful one. Over the next few years, the Jaguar continued to return to visit Jack. They forged a deep connection and became the closest of friends. They played, tumbled about, and even basked in the sun together, with Jack leaning contentedly against the giant Jaguar. However, as is often the case, circumstances changed. Simon, Jack's owner, had to relocate several hours away for work, and Jack would have to accompany him. This separation would permanently sever the bond between Jack and the Jaguar. Simon understood that despite his small size, Jack was an emotionally driven animal, and he would undoubtedly miss his unlikely friend, unable to comprehend why they had to leave. As the sun set over the wildlife reserve on their final day, Simon allowed Jack to play with the Jaguar one last time. The two companions ran, rolled, and groomed each other until the sun disappeared below the horizon. Then Simon called Jack back to him, and they packed their belongings, leaving the reserve behind forever. While it may seem like a melancholy conclusion to the story, it underscores the idea that even the most unlikely of animals can form friendships, displaying a kinship and a deep bond. Despite initial doubts and the expectation of inevitable disaster, a powerful and enduring friendship blossomed. Now it's your turn. What are your thoughts on this extraordinary tale? How would you react if a Jaguar befriended your dog? Have you ever heard of such an improbable friendship between animals? As always, we welcome your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below.